Welcome back to the Tastemakers. My name is Grace Leader. Each week on the Tastemakers, we're watching a bunch of television and movies and telling what you should and shouldn't watch. Taran Armstrong, typically the host of this podcast, still out on Big Brother duty. So I have found quite an amazing guest. I'm very excited to chat with the one and only Stephen Fishbach. Stephen, how you doing?
Good. I'm like the off-brand Taran. I've got another book coming out after his. I play Clock Tower too, but like not as well. So I'm happy to like be, the replacement Taran.
Yeah, that works for this week. Yeah, it's great.
Taran.
So you and I many weeks ago now, I saw that you were watching Alien Earth.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to you to say, would you want to come on the Tastemakers at some point and talk about Alien Earth? And that's what we're going to do today, even though, as we said before the podcast started, it's been a little bit since Alien Earth was on the air, but I still think it's worth chatting about, Stephen.
I mean, I hope so, because that's why I'm here. But yeah, right. I really like. To me, it's very fresh because I finished it 2 days ago. But I think for most people, if they watched Alien Earth at all, they're like, "Oh yes, that was something that ended 3 weeks ago, and I vaguely remember it." Which is sort of how I think like most people consume TV. Is like, "Oh yes, that's an experience that happened, and now I've moved on to a different one." Whereas, like, we were just talking about this like a couple years ago. You're like, "Oh, I'm still vibrating intensely from the finale of Breaking Bad."
From Breaking Bad, that's great. I love that.
Yeah.
That was a very long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
There's been a whole spin-off show that has started and finished.
I'm halfway through it.
Oh, Better Call Saul? Yeah. Okay, this is what I was going to say, is that I also wanted to have a little bit of a conversation before we talk about we'll talk about Alien Earth, and we'll do that in full spoiler detail. We'll talk about the whole show. And I there's only kind of one thing. We typically do a news segment. We do what is new. I feel like it's been pretty dry television summer, I have to admit, Stephen. Alien Earth was kind of like a thing that happened. There was some stuff that came out. I don't know if I'll maybe give you some pitches at the end of the podcast for what I think like you should be checking out, things that I think you would like. So we'll do that. The Chair Company debuted this week, Tim Robinson's HBO Sunday night show. But before that, I wanted to chat about, like, I feel like you're more representative of humans in the world and how they watch television. How do you watch television, Stephen?
I watch. Yeah. So I feel like I'm representative of like maybe like middle-aged humans with kids, how they watch television, where like, my wife and I, after the kids are down, we'll watch an episode of Jeopardy and then scroll mindlessly on our phones as a way to but we watch very little TV. And I like, the problem is that my wife and I have very different tastes. She doesn't like anything with drama or conflict, which is very limiting when you're thinking about television shows.
How most television drives the structure of their television is that it creates
and conflict. Like more and more so, now where like just because you have this, this arms race of having to have more drama and more conflict, which even like bleeds over into reality TV. It's like, that's like my big thing for why, certainly not to make everything about, I'm sorry, I know this is scripted.
No, it's okay. We're on our tapes.
But like, it's like one of the reasons why reality TV, Survivor has to have all these like random doodads and twists is because they have to compete with scripted. But anyway, I mean, if you're a TV show, you have to earn my attention. I used to be able to sit down with the season and say, I'm in, I'm going to watch, I'm happy to sit here with my loved one, and like be, receive the message. But now I'm leaning in, and as soon as I'm leaning away, I'm falling asleep.
But what is the thing? Like, so the one thing is, I feel like so many people, like when I go to my parents, actually my brother's house, it's like they just like turn on Netflix and that's television now. Like it's not like, but what are you choosing? Like, I'm not even choosing. How are you finding things to watch? That's my real question.
I mean, it's just the stuff, you kind of like, it's the stuff that percolates up that already it strikes my sort of existing interest. So Alien Earth, I love Aliens. And then there were good parts of the later movies, but Alien especially, like, number one, is one of my all-time favorite movies, probably my favorite horror movie. So anything like in that world, and it's just like anything else that like tickles my existing kind of like preferences. But in terms of like brand new stuff, it's very hard. It's very hard to cross over.
Fair enough. Yeah, and also like our Netflix thing, like the other day, I was telling this to my friend Ariel, where I went into my Netflix, it was like, you should watch Grey's Anatomy. And I was like why Grey's Anatomy now? Like, I guess there is a new season coming out, but it's not like I'm just on Netflix. It was like wanting to,
you're finding new things. You're like you're just all of it's get the fire hose.
You think that's the only thing you haven't watched is Grey's Anatomy, so you should watch it. Okay, so I did quickly want to start with The Chair Company, which just because I won't talk about it in spoiler detail, not that it's a show that you could necessarily spoil, but I'm a huge Tim Robinson fan. It started his new show called The Chair Company, which is, as I said earlier, his like HBO show, and this is like a 30-minute it's very comedy. Like it's very absurdist and surreal. And I just think Tim Robinson is a delight. Have you checked out? I mean, he's famous for Detroiters, and then I Think You Should Leave.
Yeah, I've watched like episodes and parts of episodes of I Think You Should Leave, and obviously love it. It's wonderful. And I watched clips on YouTube of it. Again, it's just a question of like having the time to sit down and watch a full episode of anything. Also, I feel like watching a whole episode of I Think You Should Leave. It's a lot of the same. I mean, I like to break it up into pieces. I might get some hate for that, but okay. I really enjoy it. But I like to break it into pieces.
What I like about that is that I think that that's entirely true. And also, I think You Should Leave episodes are like 15 minutes. Like if you actually look at the run, it is like not a traditional length of episode. And you're like, maybe a little too much Tim Robinson right now. Like I think like it's very. If you're like, are you still there watching? Like, no, I think I'm okay. It's like
15 minutes with two kids that's like a premium amount of time. That's like I could do anything. I could clean my whole house.
Yeah, fair enough. This is there's an inciting incident that leads him onto a thing that I think we'll be following on the show. And basically, it's like a very stupid thing completely messes up his life. That's like basically the central bit of the show. And I loved the movie Friendship. Did you was that on your radar at all? See, this is the Paul Rudd, Tim Robinson movie.
It's on my radar as something I want to see. Now, you saying I loved means it's already come out. I feel like I might be the wrong guest here. Grace.
I love this.
Oh, tell me, scripted TV, that's something that exists? Oh, movies, what are they?
Yeah, this actually, well, it came out in May, so you're not like so many months off.
Half a year. Half a year later.
And then my time for, because like I saw it at a film festival before it like got a wide, so like we're like totally on the opposite ends of this. I'm seeing things before they come out, and you're seeing them much after they come out. So
so how did for the Friendship it worked?
I think it's funny. I do like it. I know many people, but
you say so I think it's funny to me means it's not. Oh, I think it's funny. Like that means it's not funny, right?
No, that doesn't mean it's. There are specific people who are tuned into, like you're like on the Tim Robinson dial, and I'm just very cautious about saying, "Oh, this is hilarious and you're gonna love it." When like if you're not tuned into like it's not quite as absurdist the whole way through because it has more of like a movie. Script. I think it's not like a sketch. And it also wasn't like written by Tim Robinson, which I think is a little different than his television shows, which are written by him.
I mean, this is that sort of was my question. I'm so curious because he has such a distinctive style. Like, how does it translate? That kind of like works against a traditional narrative. Like all of his episodes, like sort of like work like. I mean, just like they're so anti-narrative, like for example, I mean, the most famous episode he probably did was that car, right? The car brainstorming. The
car crash. Oh no, the car brainstorm. Yes,
it probably has taken on a life of its own. But like one of the early ones, like the car brainstorm, and it just like devolves into them just like ridiculing and chanting at the guy. There's like no arc to it. Like they all like kind of devolve away from an arc. And so like I've always wondered if like his particular like brand could sustain that arc, but you're saying yes.
I do think it. I think it does. I think it's probably at its strongest at the beginning. But what's so interesting about Tim Robinson is there are two in that sketch. The brainstorm idea. He is basically the straight man because he finds this absurd human being who is the one who says the car flies out the window or whatever, and stinky, like that guy is being ridiculous, and Tim is kind of being like he's the facilitator of that meeting.
Right.
Then you have the like when the Wienermobile crashes into the thing. If nobody has ever watched any Tim Robinson, this sounds all ridiculous, which it basically is. He's but then he's also acting extremely serious, So I don't know. I do think there is a way in which his sense of humor can like play up a little more because it feels like the things that are happening around him are more absurd. But
interesting.
Yeah. Like the zipline skit too is like, I think that's maybe tends to be one I see the most pop up on TikTok, which is where he's on the Bachelor show and he's riding the zipline. That as well. He is playing it so serious that everyone else is being like, no, you're an absurd human being, but he's like, I don't know. I think it's great. So Chair Company through episode 1, I do enjoy it, but you have to. I feel like I repeat myself all the time. Where it's like you do have to like Tim Robinson, and if you immediately watch this, you're like finding it cringe. You can turn it off. You're totally fine to not watch any more of the Chair Company. But I am enjoying it, and also it's Jim Downey, who's a very famous SNL writer, and there's
there's now a documentary about him.
Yes, the Downey wrote that skit. Yeah. He's also in One Battle After Another. He plays one of.
Oh, don't tell me anything. I
will not tell you anything. But
this is the one movie I'm going to see this year.
Okay. Very
theaters.
Highly recommend. So I feel like he's having a little bit of Downey's having a moment, and he's a character in the.
It's so funny that like the Jeffrey Epstein bit, it was a thing that has like catapulted him into the cultural consciousness.
Do you know what's so weird to me? He does not look like he doesn't look like he. That's the one time he doesn't look like Jim Downey.
Yeah, with like the mustache. It's really the mustache.
He looks so different.
Yeah, he looks like a different human being. It really does.
Anyway, okay, let's talk about Alien Earth. And before, I guess I do want to dive in before, because you said Alien is your favorite horror movie, or perhaps your favorite horror movie. You've watched all of the even Romulus. Is it Romulus?
I haven't seen Romulus yet. Okay. And again, like that's just like a time premium thing. And it's like the reviews were like, this. You know, I'm on the Alien subreddit quite a bit, and you know, when they're not really into something, I'm like, you know, do I want to pollute? But then, what was the previous one, Covenant? It took me like years to watch Covenant, basically because it had somewhat tepid reviews, and I loved it. I just loved it. I love all of the Alien movies, even as like I hate the. I mean, this might sound somewhat not perverse, but like somewhat like antithetical. Like, where I hate the David stuff. I don't like it. I don't like the David arc. I don't like the idea that he like created the alien species as like a biological, you know, way to destroy humanity. But I still love an Alien movie, even if it has David in it, you know, because it's an Alien movie and it's great. And I love that everyone is so stupid, you know, at the start of Covenant, when like some scientist is on a hostile foreign world with no mask and leans down to like sniff this like bizarre alien fauna or flora, I guess, bizarre or alien flora, you know, and it like explodes spores into his face. I was like, yes, this is what we want from Alien, like scientists behaving idiotically. I did see like a lot of the criticism of Alien Earth was, gosh, everyone is behaving so stupidly. But that is the premise of an Alien movie. Like, if you don't want scientists making giant mistakes, you are in the wrong. You're in the wrong sci-fi series.
I totally agree. I actually really like Romulus. I think Taran is a big fan of Romulus. I think Taran had it in his top 5 movies of whatever year. I think.
Oh wow! Well, definitely. Well, okay, I'll watch it.
Yeah, I do think it's worth it. I think David Johnson, who is having a little bit of a moment after he was in The Long Walk, the Stephen King adaptation earlier this year, got a lot of praise for that. He's also tremendous in it. I think it's good. I think Alien Romulus is quite good. There is some stuff that it gets, you know, but I think that a lot of the Alien stuff has had, and we'll talk about Alien Earth. I think Alien Earth, I think there's a lot of good ideas in Alien Earth, and not all of them are executed perfectly. I mean, we'll dive into it. We're fully spoiling Alien Earth.
I just want to say, like, there are some people who, you know, with this Alien subreddit in my mind, I want to put, you know, there are a lot of people who are like, not all of the Alien movies have idiots in them. Like Aliens, like the Marines and Aliens act very tactically. I mean, obviously Alien, the inciting incident of Alien is them breaking the quarantine protocol. But other than that, they do act relatively rationally. And maybe over time the scientists have just gotten like dumber and dumber, and like the Flanders vacation of the whole of the series. But you know,
fair enough.
It's questionable.
I think this is a really interesting the premise of the show. You know, like, we've never seen aliens on Earth. That's kind of fun. You know, that is fun. Were you were very excited about the show?
Oh yeah, I mean, but like you said, like I wanted to see, and I love Hawley, you know Hawley, the show creator, and was really excited to see where he would take it, and yeah, like the idea of like what is it going to be like to see the aliens on Earth, and also like, you know, so much of the Alien franchise is the mystique of these corporations, you know, Weyland-Yutani, you know, to see how that was going to be executed or like brought to life, I thought was interesting. It is interesting that he kind of like really steered away from it. Like, we barely see outside it was called the Neverland Island. Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is basically the time period that he sets it in, which is it's before the first movie. Am I right in the timeline? I think that's right. And so he has this dilemma now of that there are aliens, but also nobody can ever know that they were aliens, you know?
Exactly. Well, and in some ways I was like, well, the season, I mean, I haven't said there's a season 2, but I thought the season had to end with like everything just being absolutely destroyed, right? Like the whole, because it has to all end with that knowledge kind of collapsing in on itself. Nobody can get away, nobody can get off the island because of that. Because in the next, and you know, the idea is that it sets up in a way the movie Alien, because then you can kind of understand, I guess, the motivation for why Weyland-Yutani is like out there. The idea is like in that world, the Nostromo is like another vessel that they're sending out also to get this alien that they know is a super predator. And that sort of works. Like they like, you know, the idea that the Maginot, which is the ship in this series, went out like looking for all sorts of aliens, and they brought back a bunch, right? That we saw.
Right.
The eyeball alien foremost among them.
Yes.
And then then the Nostromo is kind of like a follow-up from that, where they're out there looking for like basically this, knowing what to expect to some degree.
Well, I think again, the thing that I feel like most representative of Alien Earth, the show, is that there are a ton of really interesting ideas, and I think because everything sort of gets there's almost too many good ideas, I think, in the show, where I kind of wish he was honed in a little more. And when I interviewed Noah Hawley before the season started,
cool.
And yeah, it was very cool. But I was a little bit, because I talked to him about, he's taken on these like intellectual properties, right? And then he's built his own world. So Fargo is the best example of that. I really like Legion as well. I think Legion maybe was like not quite as popular as Fargo, and now he's doing an alien show. And so I was like, I presumed he reached out. I was like, I would do an alien show. And he's like, no, they asked me, would I do an alien show?
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he says, this is what FX did. They basically like come to him being like, we have this, we want to do, what if there are aliens on Earth? Will you do it? And he's like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. You know, and he's obviously not going to say yes to things he doesn't, I think he has good ideas for.
Yeah.
But then I feel like in this particular show, like you have this, I feel like the central idea is all of the Wendy stuff, which is like, you know, this idea of what if you, you know, humanity and putting, you know, people into these, saving humanity, being, you know, a being that can last forever, and it has to be children because children are the most sort of innocent. And I feel like the weakest part of the show ends up being like, I feel like that idea, which I think is a really strong idea, doesn't play well enough into everything else that I feel like potentially he was asked to do, which is like, you have to have a ton of aliens in the show that's called Alien Earth, which does make sense. But I wonder if just like it was the wrong property for this Peter Pan idea that he has of like never growing old.
Yeah.
In a body.
I totally agree. I think it really, especially by the end of the series, felt that way, that like the alien was something he felt like he had to kind of find a way to work in to this show about all these other different things. You know, you've got this basically a new type of like hybrid of AI and humanity, where like the digitally uploaded human consciousness into a synthetic body. And then you've got, you know, cyborgs who are like part, you know, augmented humans, and then you have the actual synths, and you know, and the interplay of those three seems to be and also of course humans themselves and all of their like messy mistakes, but like who are theoretically at the top of this pyramid, but yet have all of these flaws and weaknesses. And you can see aliens as like some kind of side commentary on that, because you know there's so much within the alien mythos of just like motherhood and fleshiness and things growing inside you and like the weaknesses of the flesh. But like by the end of the series, you know, like the alien just kind of like pops up every now and again, like, hello, I'm here, like killing people. And then but it has nothing to do really with like the main plot, other than just as a tool for Wendy, you know, which is something that I really, really did not like. I like that was probably the thing I liked least about this whole series, was how basically magically, you know, just through like having heard and then learned these clicks, like Wendy can summon this alien from across the island to do her bidding magically. I mean, it was so it was such a huge leap, and it was so contrary to what's exciting about an alien show, which is the danger of the aliens as this like existential threat to humanity. And then it became like this like tool, super easy to control, you know, instead of this like mindless killing machine. And I'm curious. I have more to say about that, but I want to, you know, get your thoughts.
Well, the other thing that Noah said was he liked this idea of the difference between what aliens represent and what these like synthetic humans represent, which is the past and the future. And in my it's like to some degree I'm not sure that I vibe with that, and I actually still don't know that I fully because there's something about it's funny to think of an alien. It is primitive, and that's what he's getting at, and that like they are like they're not smart, they just are trying to hunt. They're very like skillful, I guess, at being able to do that, like potentially the most skillful, way more skillful than humans to like fight, but they're very primitive, and that the only thing it's thinking about is killing, which then like without knowing that that's where it was going to get to, in which like Wendy can control the alien, that does make sense to me with like Noah's worldview of like primitive versus like this thing is more advanced than this thing, which yeah, I don't know if that totally. I agree with you. The Wendy like being able to control the xenomorph is like maybe my least favorite thing of the shit, because I just don't know where you. Yeah, I mean the central tension of Alien is, do you survive an encounter with the alien?
And I think like that's like, and part of like my question for myself was, because I loved episode 5, which was the Maginot episode where they're on the spaceship and everything goes wrong. And it was so perfect. It was like a perfect hour for me, or 40 minutes. And then I thought to myself, am I just loving this because this is what I'm familiar with? This, I mean, I thought he did it really great. I mean, but it was like, that's been done. Like that was Alien. He just remade his version of Alien, which was awesome, and I loved it. But he's got to do something new for it to be vibrant and for it to be worth it for him to do it. And so I kept on trying to interrogate myself, like, and what I'm rejecting here is the novelty of this, because it's not what I want out of, because it's not what I'm familiar with, or is there something essential about this that I don't like? And I do think you kind of, you can do something new, but I think to just like reduce the alien in an Alien series to this, glorified pet really is running contrary to what just the central excitement is around the series, and it's kind of like, yeah. So even if the alien is the sort of like most primitive id version of ourselves, why, even with Boy Cavalier, who's a human, right? He's never like fully brought under control. His like humanity is on full display all the way through. I mean, a lot of people had a problem with how, impulsive he was, how, never considered the consequences of any of his actions. And of course, like that's supposed to be a parody of like a certain kind of persona or person. Whether it was too heavy-handed or like, scathing and insightful, I think your mileage may vary. But if the human is allowed to be human and messy, like why can't the alien, that's like the most, like that is the id, right? That is the sort of like primal urges, just like pure destructive capability of like life. Why can't that, the idea that can just be so easily controlled by like the top of like, by like the purely evolved form is not, I just don't totally buy it. And also, they were kids. I mean, I guess the idea is like by growing up, they become, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot, there's like so much there to your point that it's like hard to like keep track of all.
I know. It's so many ideas, which, okay. So I think his point though, is that like Boy Cavalier is not the most advanced. He's kind of like the middle, because he's like a stupid human who got caught up like in the traps of the world, which is, like he's a trillionaire and the head of whatever, like he's this rich ass, where like the kids who have not yet been corrupted by by what humanity currently is, can be like sort of put in these bodies and actually, I think that and evolve. That is sort of, I think, like Noah's, from what my understanding is, sort of, and that's why they are the ones who are by the end of the season are like have everyone else trapped in the cage.
But they're like ripping, like Nibs is like ripping off people's jaws, like by the end they have like been reduced to like that level of carnage,
right?
You've got slightly, I don't know, Arush. Which one is Arush? What's his like lost boy name?
Not Kurt. He's not Kurt. Oh, slightly.
No. Slightly, yeah. Like he's like, he gives he kicks either Morrow, one of the like they're not showing some kind of like what makes them able to undo the, boy cavalier is by becoming violent. They're not somehow like, and of course, like Wendy says, like, oh, we're going to rule as like the end, but it's not like they've achieved some sort of like vaster capability other than her, magical ability to control everything around her, whether it's technology, synthetic people, or aliens themselves. But like ultimately it's through violence that she is able to assert her dominance.
But that's because it's the system that has been set up and put in place that you have to utilize those means to then be able to like whatever a season 2 is of the show.
Right. I really wonder where's it going to go in season 2, Grace?
Well, I feel like pretty simply you have, I guess, I mean, you have, I guess there is this question of like, I mean, these kids are supposed to be the good, they're the good people, right? They are, right? They're good.
Is that right? I don't know. I mean, they're crazy. I mean, like, again, like one ripped someone's jaw off.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other piece. So I guess you have. Well, I guess the question that is like, can Xenomorph actually be controlled? Like, yes, in this version, in one season of the show, like, yes, that was feasible. Whether or not that's like his intent for the rest of the show is that like a Xenomorph can be controlled. I feel like that would inevitably be part of the question. Although, based on what I'm saying about what Noah said, maybe not. But I feel like that is, like, can you keep this monster locked up like under your thumb? Not even under your thumb, but will that, is that a risky move? And then also you have another one was right born out of the chest of
born out of hermit's lung.
I get to talk to the actor who Jonathan Ajay plays Smee as well, and I do think it would have been cool to be on the set the day that like you're not just in an alien show, you're like in the scene where the thing bursts out of the chest. But
yeah, that would have been, I mean, just like an iconic thing to watch. It's really true. Yeah, it's
how
like,
they do it. Yeah. But again, to your point, that feels like maybe we're retreading into the like, oh, I like that because it's a thing I've seen before.
I mean, in terms of like the alien of it all, like the eyeball alien was much more interesting and cooler than the actual xenomorph, right? Which like sort of feels unfair to the xenomorph again, like in this show that's called Alien Earth. Again, like it just felt like Holly wasn't that interested in the alien, didn't care that, like, wasn't that interested in like what because really ultimately we just got just the alien. You just get like brief flashes of the alien like destroying things or people, but I feel like so much of what's exciting about any alien movie is that sense of being hunted by this kind of like implacable like force. But the eyeball alien was super cool, great invention, really fun, and then just like really cool, awesome, weird sci-fi imagery. Again, like I feel like if this show was not called Alien and there was no alien in it, and like the eyeball alien was allowed to sort of like be the alien, and there was all these like other random things in the, I think I might have liked it more. But like the way that the xenomorph was used was really kind of bummed me out.
I think you have two. There's two things that I think, in my mind, it feels like he got trapped a little bit. Yeah. One is that it had to be called Alien Earth. Like that's what he said he got asked to do, was like aliens on Earth. And then the second thing is like the time period in which they said it, in which like nothing can be, you can't change anything that's going to happen in the future unless there's a way, as you said, like by the end of it, if like everybody blows up and there's no evidence that any of these aliens were here. But I feel like if you take the stuff that happens in episode 5 and you said it after it, and it's like, actually, we're going to try to find all of the other aliens, and you're on like you're like looking at all these other places, and you find the eyeball monster. That is the coolest thing ever. And I feel like it does feel like he had to sort of like try to just fit all of these things together in a way that I don't think he really ever has to do in Fargo, because he just gets to go so far. Well, he was in the future, right? He's always been, I guess he's played around with time.
But in the way that like Seth MacFarlane did the Orville, and it was obviously like his version of Star Trek, like you kind of like want that for him, like let this be your world that you get to create. You're not constrained by any of the existing things. And then we can kind of discover it with you. I felt like that would have been a little, I mean, it was really cool. I mean, again, like, I think like some of the way that they did what do they call it? Cassette futurism, just like the sort of like,
He talked about that there are basically three distinct visual, like there's three iconic visual sci-fi identities, like that really were the foundation of everything, which is Star Wars, Star Trek, and he says Alien. And when you look at any of them, they don't look like the other one. Like you don't get popped into an Alien shit and you're like, this kind of feels a little Star Warsy, like they all. And I feel like they completely nail the Alien visual identity of the show, which is like it has to look like it's the future, but how we thought the future would look like.
And Blade Runner too, obviously, is another one. Like Blade Runner and Alien probably are like kindred spirits, but like they're very different in terms of like the visual. I mean, the Blade Runner is obviously just like the big screens, is the most sort of compelling image of Blade Runner.
I think the piece of this show that I have the most amount of disappointment in, and it's not that I think the performance is bad. It's just that I have such lofty expectations for Timothy Olyphant that I kind of feel like he's a little wasted as Kirsch in the show.
That's so funny. I loved him. That was like one of my favorite parts of the show because he was so like against his type. It was such a new version of.
I know. Maybe I'm just watching him do. He did a bunch of press rounds for this show, and he is just like literally the coolest human being alive. Like I just genuinely think he is so cool, and he is not very cool in the show, but it's a great performance, I think. But
I thought he was super cool. Like to me, he seemed like the end of his arc I thought was a little disappointing because he did seem to be like pulling all these strings. You're like, oh, where do his loyalties lie? As he's kind of encouraging the Lost Boys to go off and find the alien and everything. And, ultimately, I just felt like he was so in control. Like, I don't know, like all the coolness, it worked for me.
Well, do you think there was a lot of debate online in the Alien subreddit about whether or not like Kirsch was literally, undermining Boy Cavalier in some way, and by the end of it seems like he's not. And I guess I didn't watch it as recently as I think you did. So by the very end of it, does it seem like, is there any opportunity to be like, actually Kirsch is still, like if we come back for season 2, do things have to be exactly the way they are, which is that like Kirsch, Boy Cavalier, everybody is in the cell and all of the Peter Pan people are outside, or is there more room?
No, I think that's basically it. I mean, like that's I think and Kirsch, I think by the end, like Kirsch was pretty clearly a loyal soldier that was just going about things in a devious way, by kind of like giving the Lost Boys enough leash to sort of like lure in Morrow. By the way, Morrow, insanely cool character. I saw someone on the Alien subreddit saying, he should have his own spin-off series. I would watch that in a heartbeat. Like I felt like he was the most exciting part of the show.
Well, I agree. I mean, I'm totally in agreement with you that I feel like where the show is really, it's the best is episode 5 when it is just that story of like, what if this ship had gone out and gathered all these aliens and the downfall of that, which is essentially just Alien 1, but with a bunch more aliens. So,
but even like the core arc of Morrow, which is this human who's lost everything, right? Like he already kind of signed up to knowingly lose everything, by like going on the 65-year mission where by the time he got back, his daughter was probably going to be an old lady at best. Then she dies while he's gone. He's upgraded himself to this half cyborg, this half machine, half man. He's a brutal enforcer, but he also has obviously a lot of pain and trauma. Like that is I feel like a really interesting character. I kind of thought that the whole Lost Boys thing, first of all, I thought the metaphor was like really heavy-handed, and boy, did he not stop. He was not like, let me just like weave this in there subtly. Oh no. Like all in on that metaphor. But also I just kind of felt like it's a story we're seeing a lot, right? About what is AI, what is human, where does the line begin between a human and a machine, or where does the line end? Or anyway, where is the line between a human and machine? And you think about a show like Westworld, which was all about this and just like delved into this question of like, how does a machine like kind of like achieve sentience? Does like trauma make somebody into a real human? And that was the purpose of that, of that show. And it did kind of feel like that was sort of like what was exciting to Hawley here, right? Like that was what was interesting to him. And they got some aliens.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I talking about Timothy Olyphant, and also who plays we were just talking about
Morrow.
Babu Sise plays Morrow. I think the performances in this show like are really good. It's a little bit of why I'm like disappointed in the show, because I think again because like the Peter Pan thing, I do think it's like heavy-handed and it exactly what you said, that he has this idea and then he has to put aliens into the show, because I'm like, oh, that is a good idea. I just don't know if it was like this show where the show called Alien Earth, that you should have done it. But the performances, Alex Lothar as well, who I'm a big fan of, who plays Hermit.
Yeah.
I thought just and then obviously Sydney Chandler as well as Wendy. I thought the performances
she was
in the
great.
show
She was really
are
great.
amazing, which is a little bit why you're like, it was good enough to keep watching, and to continue to still be there's a show I kept watching a few years ago. I think it was an Anne Rice, I don't know if you ever watched like Interview with a Vampire.
Oh, I really want to. People love the new remake of or I guess not remake, but like
No, it is a remake. It's
it's like another adaptation of the book.
Yes, correct. But I watched Mayfair Witches, and I kept being like, this wasn't very good, but there was enough good in it that I'm like, maybe next week it will be good.
That's the thing. Good. I enjoyed this week to week. I mean, by the end, I was like kind of out on it because of the alien stuff. But like, even so, I really enjoyed watching it. I liked seeing what happened with the eye. I loved the stuff with the eye and the sheep just like glaring at him. I thought visually it was really cool. And I thought there was just a lot of stuff that he did visually to like kind of streamline story that was just like gorgeous and original, at least original to me, who watches no television, where he would just kind of like overlay a brief image of Yutani in her ships are going across the sky. And you're like, okay, like now I know what that is, like that's Yutani's battle fleet, like going to the island, and just like really brief, like snapshots of images to communicate an entire story, because he recognized the intelligence of the audience and the audience's ability to like keep up with him. And I thought that was really awesome and very, very beautiful. And even just the shots of the island were cool. I mean, as someone very, who finds that setting very evocative, I thought that was just like a really beautifully done, neat show, and it like looked great, like top to bottom it looked great.
Right, I agree. I thought it's an FX show. I think and the other thing about FX is Josh Wigler and I were talking about this, in that FX I think is right now hands down is the sort of network where if a television show is coming out, I have the most sort of like faith in that thing to be good. I feel like I think part of this thing is that they what I think is really and I'm gonna sort of sound like I'm contradicting myself here, in which it does feel like to some degree Noah's hands were tied on what he was asked to do. And that's the part that we're butting up, is like, there's a good story over here and there's an interesting story over here. And then when you put them together, it kind of feels like a big mess. And yet it, what I love about FX is a show like Shogun feels like it was like, they were allowed to just go and do whatever they wanted to do. The Lowdown is a show that's on television right now. That's the show I was going to recommend to you, actually, Stephen, because it's a guy who owns a bookstore, and he investigates all of the stuff that's happening in a town. It's set in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oh wait, this sounds awesome, with Ethan Hawke. How have I not even heard about this show?
Yeah, I would highly recommend The Lowdown. I think it's sort of like Oklahoma noir.
I love that. I've got family from Oklahoma. That's great.
Yeah, wow, amazing. Yeah, and it's from Sterling Harjo, created Reservation Dogs, which is the comedy. So this is his follow-up, and I just think it's tremendous. It's an FX show, and I feel like there's really like they just like let Sterling Harjo go and do what he wants to do, and so I feel like they really like. I really trust stuff that it's like if it's an FX show, and yet this one, I'm a little disappointed, which is like the
but again, like I do feel like it's the weight of just the franchise, and other than like it really was a very, I'm sort of coming around. Here's my question to you. Okay, so initially I was okay, little kids and body and like initially I kind of was like, is that like a story I'm interested in? But then I thought to myself, or then I was when I say I thought to myself, I mean as I was reading this exact comment on Reddit, I had the thought. They've done so like. They did, space like space sailors. What do you call space
pirates?
Space pirates.
No, Marines. I see what you mean. Yeah.
Then they had the Marines and aliens. They've had like scientists. They've had so many different versions of who is interacting with this alien. Like kids is kind of an interesting idea, and I really liked, or I was open to the the vision of like these kids in these crazy bodies, and it is kind of like a metaphor for like, you know, being teenagers, right? Like you're still
It's
kind of a
coming of
kid.
age stuff, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And
yes,
you're like,
100%.
and it does feel like, I feel like thematically it should all kind of gel with all, you know, again, like with the alien being sort of this like all about physicality and you know, what coming out of you and you know, I guess childhood in a way. I don't know, maybe, but anyway, you know, did you like that, just that central premise of like these are like kids who are who are kind of like navigating through this? Because I thought it was very fun the way it was acted, you know, with these like adults sort of acting as like children.
Yeah, so the premise of like I like it both from thematically, like what it could have been in terms of, I love coming of age stories because I love them as in terms of, you know, a lot of this like like when an 18-year-old makes the stupidest decision of their life, like is that their fault? It like yes and no, because it's like a product of who they were and they're becoming, they you know who they're becoming. I love all of that stuff, and I thought that would be extremely interesting to see. And then the scientific thing of like, is this like procedure doesn't really work on like if you're old, it doesn't work.
Right.
So the only people we can do it on are this like, and then there's this thing of like, I saw this comment of like, you know, these are these young kids and we saved their life, let's go have them hunt deadly monsters, you know, like it's a little like, and again that feels to me like pressure of the show to like get like have the stars of your show be in the action sequences, you know. And so there maybe there's a different way to convey that and you can still get to the same time where then they're like out hunting monsters. But I don't know, then it just, then they're super advanced, I feel like by the end of the first, like the way Wendy, they don't even to me really feel like kids in the like kind of in the last scene, but not totally. So I just feel like it's like the execution of these ideas, there's just too many ideas, I think, in the show. So
that moment where they send the kids to like these $1 trillion floor models, you know, in Boy Cavalier's words, to be who have no training or, you know, disaster relief or, you know, threat containment. That was the first moment where I was like, I'm a little out on this, you know, I'm leaning back a little bit, because as much as the Alien series has so many examples of people making terrible ideas or terrible decisions, like this felt like a uniquely bad decision in franchise, you know, in the franchise, where it's this $1 trillion company, you know, one of the basically owns this whole part of the earth, and they choose to send these people like this one group. They have like, it has a private army, like it's established that there's a private army, that's why Hermit is there. Why not just send that? I mean, I do think it could have easily kind of been like, maybe they were right there, you know, like it could have they could have done it to sort of streamline it from a plot perspective. And I kind of felt like that with a lot of what happened, where there were decisions that were made that they could have easily provided just a little bit more plot context for, that would have made them kind of go down easier. Even just like Wendy, like, there not being any kind of way for Boy Cavalier to shut off these, you know, networked, and you know that he can see through their eyes, but he doesn't have any kind of back end control over them. Like that seemed kind of, but again, like even just a sentence, you know, a sentence like say like here's why that's the case, and then suddenly I'm okay, I get it. Like that's why that's the case in this world.
Yeah, I mean the idea. I mean, I guess you already have. Well, you know, then in the show, like the fact that, well, then you have, because I'm trying to. I feel like the most logical, when you have a monster that can burst through the stomach, which I guess nobody in this show knows yet. And again, I'm just like butting up with the time period. The idea that you would send somebody who can't be like infected in the same way, like that makes a ton of sense. And so then if you could just map that on like, you already have like, so why do you specifically need to map human conscious, like why does human consciousness need to be a part of the solution to doing, because you could just send a bunch of synthetics, right? Like you just need to get there. I feel like you're so close, like it's so close, but it's not quite there.
Yeah, exactly. And again, like it was just like, you know, he's got 8 44-minute episodes and a billion ideas, as well as just like the necessities of establishing the world and bringing the alien and all this plot stuff. And it was like, it was a lot. It was a good show, but there was, especially at the end, I kind of felt like it fell apart with kind of the questions of it. Even the way the eye alien ended, I found it so satisfying when, you know, he jumped into Andrew. Is that his name? Am I just like making whatever, the scientist
Mm-hmm.
body. I was like, that's fun. Like, this was a fun character. I'm happy to see him, come back as like half eye alien, half man. Like, that's like a fun sort of like twist
Right.
that I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes.
Right.
But just like from like a pure like logistics question, the eye alien couldn't find any other living host in this giant building where there's tons of carnage. I mean, it's like, why? He's like, I mean, maybe the eye alien knew that he wanted Andrew. That's probably if that is that character's name.
I think one thing is interesting to me is Legion was the same year, but Fargo, the success of Arthur, the success of Fargo has really been obviously people are higher on different seasons, but that's anthology, and it's like he can reset. I do think like with the amount of promo and press and everything they put into the show, it does feel like a show that if it's been successful enough, FX is going to bring back. I don't know whether that's because I assume it also has a fairly hefty budget. So I haven't heard anything about the show being renewed, but I have to imagine
there's not a sure. Do you think it was written with the idea that it would be a season 2, or do you think it was written as like this is a good season 1 arc and we can push it into season 2 if need be?
I think my impression is with how much they put into the show, this was never going to be a thing that they would only do season 1 if all of like if it was as successful as they wanted it to be, it's probably a little pricier to just say like, oh yeah, we should do it if it's not gonna, bring a bunch of return. But I think that they would bring this back. So
I'm as I said at the start, like I'm someone who watches one show in 6 months. You're someone who watches a lot, and so for me, again, it has to be really good to keep me. And I watched it all the way through. To me, there's no higher compliment than the fact that, in spite of everything, like in spite of my reservations with it, which there were some as I've just expressed, like it was compelling and cool and visually, arresting enough to watch all the way through, and I really enjoyed it. But you are someone who says you're watching everything. Like, where does this rank for you, among the things you are seeing? Like, is this like a standout that you're going to remember? Is it?
No, unfortunately not. I don't think so. Like I agree. I feel like Dr. Amanda and I were on a podcast once, and she came on and she was like, I'm just gonna say up front, I thought this show was really good. We're talking about the show Industry on HBO. She's like, I thought it was really good. And then she went to talk about all the things she thought like didn't quite work. And she's like, I feel like I just like was really harsh on the show, but I have to say, like, I did like it, and I kind of feel like it's the same here. That I did think week to week, each episode, I very much liked. I just think it's a little disjointed, and it's not. And I had such lofty expectations for both an Alien show and also a Noah Hawley show. That like when those two things are together, and so it just like ultimately I'll end the year being like I was a little disappointing. Like I definitely could see a world where it's like top. Maybe top 15. I don't know that it's top 10.
Top 15
I know ranking is arbitrary and reductive, Steven. But
how many are we? What's the number here? Top 15 out of 17?
Out of shows that I've watched? No, I've watched a lot more than that. I probably watch like at least start new shows, and if I'm gonna keep going with it, like I'll probably have like 50, 60 shows I watched.
Oh wow. Okay. So top 15 is like doing pretty well.
It's just not it's not elite, The Lowdown has been elite. I think Task that's on right now on HBO is pretty close to it. That struggled a little bit, but just like there's like even during the run of Alien Earth, which I thought was a dry summer for television, there were better shows on TV than Alien Earth, I think. So,
I would watch a whole series of like the space part of it, the off in space. But again, like, is that just me wanting an homage of something I love? Is that just like he's not going to do that? Nobody's going to do that because that's just something that's existed and it's been done and it's been done perfectly. So why would you do it again? So it's so hard to take something that's so beloved and has so much built-in lore and then do something both new and equally great.
Especially because, and again, I just think it's like I could either like I think you need to rework the ideas in the show, or you just need to set it at a totally different time period. Yeah. And so many of the issues that I'm having don't even matter. Like you're not limited by some of that like people. Yeah. So I don't know.
Why make it so that they don't know about it, right? I mean, that's part of it. Why not have aliens be like an existing thing in the world? So,
there's such a big prequel thing, I feel like, and I don't quite understand of like why Welcome to Derry is coming out in a few weeks as well, and that one is also, and I do get like, oh, we could figure out like how Pennywise became a thing, but also you're then so limited and like that thing, just so you know, that thing can never be defeated.
Right.
In the show.
You can't be exactly. Maybe the other maybe it's like Derry's son is actually it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I do have to say I was trying to look at what else has come out this year, and already I'm like, there's so many really good shows. Adolescence is up there, The Rehearsal, Steven. The Pit is a 2025 show. I don't know if you caught any of The Pit sensation.
I mean, I've heard about it. I've certainly heard it's the thing to watch.
It is the thing to watch. It really is. But were you ever like an ER person? Did you watch?
No, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I didn't watch
either.
it. It's because like it doesn't play to my pre-existing preferences. If I had been, it's like, but if a show came out that was, I don't know. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm not an ER person either, and I think The Pit is maybe the best show of the year. So,
wow.
There is something to. It's really, really good. Andor season 2. Are you an Andor? Are you a Star Wars?
Yeah, I haven't watched, and that's the one I'm most excited to watch. I loved Andor. I've seen Andor season 1 twice, and I have not seen season 2 yet. I'm really excited.
Oh, you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
I think it has the best run of episodes because when they release it, they release like 3 at a time.
Yeah.
This year, and it has the best in my opinion. I don't know that everybody agrees with that, but I think it has the best run. Okay, I feel like that's our Alien Earth combo. Those are some of the things I was going to recommend to you anyway. The one thing I wanted to so you have a book coming out that I'm very excited to read. I've pre-ordered it. Everybody should pre-order it.
Thank you.
And I did the thing for Taran that I heard you talk on a podcast about with you're like, if they tell you not to do this, but everybody should pre-order the book, and you should do that because pre-order is extremely helpful to book sales. Those books all get counted as a book that was sold the day the book came out. So it's extremely helpful. And so everybody should, if you're even like thinking, oh, I might like that, please pre-order.
Please. Yeah, exactly. It's like you hear like, oh, instant New York Times bestseller. They're all instant because they're all made in that that run up to the book. Now, again, like it might not happen for me, but it might. I'm like kind of like on the margin. Like I bet. I mean, so like I feel like with like a little push, I might get there, but like I need the push because it's not. It's like it's really like it's on that margin.
Okay, very exciting. So, well, first of all, just I'm sure many of our listeners have listened to you talk, but just for the folks who haven't, tell us about the book.
So the book is called Escape with an exclamation point. And it follows a has-been reality TV contestant who goes back or goes on to another jungle reality show, kind of trying to reclaim his lost glory because, the real life could just never measure up to the sort of fantasy that you get to live when you're playing these games and these TV show games. And while there, he kind of, obviously meets all of the other kooky contestants and, forms relationships and rivalries with them. But at the same time, there's also this like other plot happening with the producers and the staff of the show who have their own dramas and are kind of affecting the players themselves. And in terms of like story, like what I've always found really interesting about producers is they're storytellers. They are people who are crafting a story out of human lives. And one thing when I interviewed a lot of people in my research for this book, and one thing I thought was really interesting was to hear that they would like argue about plot lines. These people will sit down at the end of the day and they'll be like, this is what's cool and this is happening and this is happening. And so the idea that they are kind of these two like architects of our lives are facing off to sort of determine who gets to push in which direction, I thought was really interesting. And of course all the psychodrama behind that. So it was really fun for me to plot out these like two intersecting worlds and how the like competing sort of dramas within each of them were like affecting each other.
I love it. That's fun. I think that's very exciting. I'm so excited to read it. I saw that you got to unbox your first box. Like that's the first time you held the book in your hand. Is that right?
Yeah, and it's the galleys. Very, very cool feeling. I mean, sort of like scary. Like it's real. I bet. I bet. I mean, it's been abstract this whole time. Now it's like a real thing in the world.
Okay, I love the thing that you're all saying about all the producers. I think I love all of like nitty. I love I love behind the scenes. I'm a big pro wrestling fan. I don't know if you know that, Steven. And I feel like the love of like as much as people love pro wrestling, most people I think like it because it's like there's the on-screen stuff and there's all of the like behind the scenes stuff that goes on that all impacts. And it used to be for like that was very like walled off. So I feel like I love behind the scenes stuff. And so you posted recently that the cover for the international version of your book and it's a different cover. And I was immediately like, I need to know why that is a thing that happens, and it's not the same cover internationally as it is in North America.
Yeah, and that was just like one. So what's interesting is like the book goes out. So primarily, I'm a U.S. based author. I have a U.S. based publisher, but then the rights get sold to other publishers. So these rights got sold for Australia, New Zealand, and the U.K. to this publisher Text. And they have a different vision for what the book should look like, right? The text of this book is the same. It's this, but like they've got their own team and they want it to look like something that they think is going to work for their markets, right? Like the Australian reader is not necessarily the same as the US reader, or just like this group of people has a different vision than like that group of people. And right now my agent is in Frankfurt, hopefully selling other foreign rights for my book. So, there'll probably be another cover, in Europe, I hope.
So interesting.
Yeah, it's cool. And it's cool to like get the different covers, I'm going to get my wall of covers.
Well, Richard Osman is an author. He writes the Thursday Murder Club book series. They just adapted one of the movies. I recommended it on here. He talked about he's British and he has a very British sensibility, and he loves like pop culture references and and so he says that like when the book comes, sometimes I think where like someone will go through and be like, oh, we don't think that this will actually like this sweet, like we don't have that in or this show that someone is referencing. And so I can't remember if he actually talked about whether or not they've asked him to change it and he didn't, or he did. But does that is it literally like the international versions, like it will literally be the same, or is there versions where like this thing will get changed because this is such an American thing?
It hasn't happened to me yet. And I don't think there's anything in my book that's so specific. I mean, there's obviously like a bunch of cultural references, but I think they're US culture is a monoculture. So
that's right. That's what I think. Yes. That's why I was like, oh, this is a silly question.
For a British author, like maybe it's a little bit different where it's like more niche, but also, I remember reading like a copy of In Cold Blood I bought when I was in London, and like all of the, it was all Kalur, with the O-U-R, very off-putting, because it's like
that's
such
Canadian
a
though too. That's
what?
Yeah. We use the OUR.
Yes, we like the two of us as Canadians.
Nope. Oh yeah! Congratulations on getting your Canadian citizenship.
Yeah, exactly.
Very excited.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like I've been in a little bit of a reading rut, I have to admit, Stephen. And so one of having you on, Taran and I have sometimes done some book recommendations. But I was actually wondering if you had any book recommendations for.
Gosh, I really should have come prepared
That's
for this. Have you read Annihilation? This is like one of my all-time favorite books. It's not a current book. It was, so Annihilation is one of my all-time favorite books. I mean, as someone who's interested in books set in like jungle-y environments, and someone with like a sci-fi bent, I actually think you might really like this book. It's about basically this shimmering curtain comes between essentially like the US and I think basically what is Florida, and it's called the Southern Reach. And there's like these expeditions keep getting sent into the Southern Reach, and the book follows one of these expeditions, and they all disappear. And then something comes, and occasionally people come back, but like they're like wildly transformed. And at the start of the book, the biologist, and like all we know is her name, the biologist, is like descending into what she calls a tower, but it's like a subterranean tower, and like discovers these like mysterious words written on the walls of the tower. And it's just so cool. I mean, it's really, it's like so cool, but beautifully plotted. Like the world building is so intricate. It's like relatively short for all of that. And it's so evocative, and it's got like such a perfect narrative arc. And then there's also a bunch of sequels to it. There's the second one called Authority, which I also loved. And then there's two more. Oh my gosh, the Acceptance and then Absolution are the other two. But I would highly recommend Annihilation to anybody. I mean, I recommend it to a lot of people, and it's like a reliable rec.
I will be checking that out. I feel like the one that I feel like everybody's recommending at and I've read it is Project Hail Mary, which is the very stuff. And because the movie is coming out. And
if you haven't listened to that is an amazing audiobook, which I
haven't done the audiobook.
Yeah. I mean, you're not supposed to talk about why it's amazing because it's like there's spoilers involved, but like it's a great, it's a really, really great audiobook. I mean, I only listen to it because I normally do read hard copies, but people were so euphoric about this specific audiobook, and it was great. I loved it.
Okay. One of my favorite, the very controversial writer, Alex Garland, film and TV writer, written and directed the adaptation
for Annihilation. Yeah, not his best, not the best.
Yeah.
The adaptation is not representative of the book itself. Alex Garland, not just a film and TV writer, but also a book writer who wrote The Beach. That was kind of his breakout book.
I haven't read that.
It's one of my favorite books too. If you haven't read that, it's also another great book set on an island.
Wow.
And it's sort of like, it was like this iconic Gen X book, because it was all about backpacker culture and this like desire to escape it all. And you know, it's this like group of people who essentially set up a little nirvana on this remote island, and then of course things are perfect and nothing goes wrong.
That's, your wife would hate it. I understand. Yeah. Exactly. The new, I mentioned Richard Osman before. His new his fourth book in the Thursday Murder Club series just came out this week, so I picked that up and I'll be checking that out at some point.
Do you have favorites? Like, are you a mystery person?
You know what? I sort of like jump between genres. I try not to like read a lot of the same. Like I kind of like jump into murder mystery. Not really. I just love Richard Osman. I love British panel shows, Stephen. They're like some of my favorite. Tastemakers is my favorite show of all time. If you've never watched it, I think it's the best show. It's very funny. Let's see. I guess there is some conflict, but I just think it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Game design, I think. And so Richard Osman has been on Taskmaster. He's a British panel show person. His podcast also that he does, I feel like I'm like promoting Richard Osman this week. The Rest is Entertainment is very much like, it'll be like, how does this, someone will say like, how does this mechanic work on this game show? And then they'll go ask the people on the game show, and they'll be like, and then they'll send an audio clip and be like, yeah, so we set it up this way. So we're like, it's all like, the Rest is Entertainment. They answer all the behind the scenes stuff. I just think he's a brilliant person. I love his book. I read all the Red Rising books not too long ago. I like those. I'm sorry, those have not been adapted into a TV show or
I don't know anything about Red Rising. Give me the pitch.
Red Rise, the entire world, and world is planets. There's a government system in which people are like put into categories based on, so reds are basically like the humans from Mars who like work like mining Mars, and it's about one of those people trying to rise up and rebel against the authoritarian empire. That's that. Yeah.
Have you read Children of Time?
I have not read Children.
It's one of my favorite recent sci-fi books. It's by Adrian Tchaikovsky. It's about a generation ship, basically, that's being thrust into space, and then it's separately about a world where the humans were trying to evolve it as a way, like, to create a sentient race of monkeys, but like the virus that the evolution virus hit spiders instead. So instead, like it's like a world controlled by spiders, and these things do intersect. These two plot lines do intersect.
Okay, all right. Children of Time. I'll check that out as well.
Very good.
I do. Fantasy and then sci-fi are probably my most like I'm probably always reading one of those, and I'm sort of like inserting something else. It's a little lighter typically in the middle of those. So yeah, and soon I'll be reading Escape by.
Yeah.
No.
It's hard for me with sci-fi just generally because I'm a very slow reader, and the books are always so long. It's always 800 pages, and like the first 50 pages is just like, Zorbax jumped over the Zooble-Doob, in order to like with his
100%. Yeah.
And it just like takes a minute to like get into it, where you're like, it's so there's such this like wall of lingo that always is like a barrier for me. Why can't they just be? I guess the readership doesn't want people to just have contemporary names.
Yeah, that's so true. That is exact. Yeah, I think Red Rising literally has like in every book there's like like all of the names, because they're like they're just like these outrageous names, and it has like who they are basically. So yeah. Well, Stephen, thanks so much for coming on to the Tastemaker.
Thank you.
You're an honorary tastemaker.
Yes, honored to be here. I'm sorry that I'm so clearly the wrong person for this show.
I love
someone who watches one season of TV.
You're actually the right person, because this is like the fun of being like, oh, you would actually love this show, I'm so happy,
that's the premise, right? You're telling me what the cool, that makes sense.
That's right.
I mean,
so it's perfect. Yeah.
All right, the lowdown is going to be the next one. That's it.
That's right. No, there was something else you hadn't watched. Andor. You need to watch Andor.
Oh, Andor. Yeah,
that's the thing you actually need to watch.
Yeah.
And then you're doing the know-it-alls each week with Rob.
Oh yes.
Yeah. It's been the season so far. Have you been enjoying it? You've been,
I always like Survivor. Even the
this,
seasons that are not my favorite seasons, I enjoy. And like the whole thing with the snake last week was very exciting.
It's very interesting. Yeah. Never seen it before.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to let?
You think they're gonna have to have an animal attack now? They're like, they've set the bar for themselves. Now it's like, you can't go back.
That's right.
What are they gonna release next time?
That's very exciting. 50 as well. So
yeah. Tiger.
Yeah. Anything else you got going on? Anything else you want to promote?
No, this was just a delight. Thank you so much. I was just really excited to talk about Alien. I mean, like, I love the Alien franchise, so I was really like excited to talk about my Fortnite character. Oh, here's another thing. I want your opinion on this, Grace. Last thing.
Yes, please.
What did you think of the model? Because to me, I love the head, but the body, I saw on Reddit, and I thought this was very apt. Like, someone was like, it looked like someone wearing alien pants. Like, the body was so humanoid that it just didn't feel,
the xenomorph.
Yeah.
So I mean, Noah kept saying, I think he was very self-conscious about the alien, because he's like, well, everybody puts their own spin on it, and I feel like he had to be like talked down or something. Like, I don't know if it was his call or somebody else's call, and he made it, and he wanted to be like, but everyone puts their own spin on it.
It's fine.
Like, it's fine. Yeah. No, I did think it looked a little, well, it's such the thing of horror television, like horror in general. It's like, when you see the thing, it's like, it kind of ruins it a little bit. Like, you have to, and it's like amazing that the xenomorph, like, it's so iconic that even when you see it, it's still really cool. It did look look like somebody was in the xenomorph rather than it's a xenomorph.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. Tough a little bit, but it didn't ruin it for me. But
no, it didn't bother me. It was just, I just noticed it.
And people were noticing it as well. So okay, well, I'm on social media at Hi From Grace. You can check out everything I'm doing over on Parade, Pop Heist, This Century in Cinema. See if I'm counting down the New York Times top 100 films of the 21st century. This week is Interstellar with Ariel, so that should be a treat. Excited to revisit that one, and we'll see you all next week. Hopefully Taran will be back soon. Otherwise, I'll just keep finding a rotating bevy of guests to come talk about television and movies. So until next time, see you later.
Off-brand Taran, I'm happy to be here.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.